actually like VR. No one is more surprised by that than me, I assure you. Usually I come down against hardware gimmicks. From the moment the Wii was first envisioned and for every second of its existence I was talking shit about motion controls, how they're all very well for throwing your grandma a video bowling party, but for core games, immersive narrative games, they were a complete dead end. Having to swing my own arm to swing my sword in Wii Zelda games did nothing but pull me out of the experience, and emphasise the sheer gulf between my noodly limbs and those of a determined heroic twink. I maintain that small button presses you barely have to think about are far more effective at keeping you absorbed in the fiction, but the motion controls involved in playing VR, I'm perfectly fine with. I genuinely feel badass drawing, reloading, pointing and shooting the pistol in something like Half-Life Alyx, or punching goons' faces in Arkham Shadow with a sound like an entire continent lifting up a few feet and then dropping back down. It doesn't mess with my immersion in VR, probably because VR brute forces the immersion so hard. You can't not be immersed, at least initially. You've got TV screens strapped to your eyeballs for fuck's sake, so my brain is much more willing to meet it halfway. Besides, I can't get self-conscious when I can't see myself. I look down at my hands when I play Kinect games, and all I see is my clumsy fingers, my hairy forearms, the HP sauce stains on my sleeves, but I look down at my hands in VR, and I see naught but the mighty fists of Batman, probably spazzing out and clipping into something they shouldn't, but you can't have everything. So in short, I enjoy VR. I am also 100% certain that it will never, ever gain widespread usage or popularity. VR's been hovering on the peripheries of gaming for quite a while. I think some sectors of the industry believe it's going to be the next big thing any day now. I wonder if Valve were thinking that when they went all in on Half-Life Alyx. And there's that pervasive pop culture image prevalent in your cyberpunk settings and your Ready Player Ones that depict the future of video gaming as everyone being plugged into a communal cyberspace experience, decked out in goggles and gloves covered in pointless glowing LEDs. I don't think that's ever going to happen. As much as I enjoy VR, I don't believe it will ever replace the traditional gaming position. Couch, TV, controller in hands, slumped posture, drool. Let me explain why. First of all, VR tech isn't ready to be pushed to the mainstream audience anyway. Above anything else, it needs to be easy, convenient, and comfortable to strap on and start using, and we're still a ways from that. For the longest time, getting some VR in required a lot of steps. Most headsets would need you to set up cameras or sensors all around your room, and have you go through a prolonged onboarding process, establishing the size of your space and whether you're sitting or standing. And resolutions being really pixely up close was a problem for a while, as could be expected. TV screens strapped to eyeballs and all that. The MetaQuest finally being wireless was a huge step for me. Finally, I didn't have to have cables trailing down my shoulders, and I could explore 360 degrees of rotation without choking myself to death. But there's still leaps to be made. I think VR will have the best possible chance when a device can be made small enough and light enough to be worn like a pair of very large wraparound sunglasses. The fact you have to strap it to your head automatically makes it too uncomfortable for many, and even for people like me, the weight of the Quest 3 hanging off the front of my face is still a touch too uncomfortable. Having to stop every hour or two for a bit of recovery time doesn't help the immersion. So wait, Yahtzee, VR will never be mainstream because technology isn't currently viable? Surely that will change. Have patience, viewer, that was just point 1. Point 2. There is an inherent limit to what kinds of games you can play in VR. Obviously, you're restricted entirely to first-person games. Not exactly, Yahtzee. What about Moss and Lucky's Tale and— Shut up! Just shut the fuck up! Obviously, you're restricted almost entirely to first-person games, so no Devil May Cry style third-person hack and slashing that depend on situational awareness. I mean, if you played something like Ninja Gaiden Black in first-person, all you'd see is scenery blurring past at great speed as your dude flipped out all over the place. 2D platforming, grand strategy, one-on-one fighting games, all would be sacrificed in the VR-only world. It wouldn't be the first time mainstream gaming basically ditched entire genres for the sake of new tech, such as in that whole 2D to 3D jump in the late 90s I keep talking about, but this would be too much. It's like 60 to 70% of all genres. And even restricted to first-person games, VR has its limits. Here is a list of everything VR is good for. Piloting vehicles, punching things, hitting things with sticks, shooting one-handed guns at things, and climbing things. That's it. And that's not much in terms of forming a complete sphere of human experience. Even the climbing things part is a stretch, because you can only use your hands, and I used to do rock climbing, it's supposed to be a full body workout. I always find my VR experience turning sour whenever it asks me to use both hands to hold something, like a pump-action shotgun. Pointing a handgun and pressing the controller trigger like it's a real trigger, fine, fully immersed, no notes. But when you ask me to extend a second hand, wobbling around groping nothing in front of me, my mind is 100% aware that my controllers aren't connected to each other. This is why Half-Life Alyx only has one-handed guns. besides the obvious reason? Oh, surely again, technology might one day fix that one too, Yards. Like by having some kind of magnetic tether system that connects the controllers to each other when necessary. Maybe someday all the technological limitations will be overcome. The controllers replaced with full-body suits, perhaps even direct neural interface like the Matrix, all in a form that somehow remains affordable to the average consumer. Since we're fully in the realms of science fiction, sure, it's possible. If we did have neural interface and had successfully digitized human neural data, using it for video games seems a bit petty, considering it'd trigger a fucking technological singularity at that point, and we'd all be implanting our brains into robot dolphin bodies. But fine, it's still not going to become the way everyone games. Why don't I think so? Well, as I said, way back in my extra punctuation about games that claim to let you do anything, the fact is that efficiency is what drives technological development. If someone wants to read the news online, they're not going to want to dive into Cybertown to visit the cyber news stand. They can just dig their phone out and look up the news. It takes seconds. Then they can go back to doing the washing up. I don't think most people actually want video games to be fully immersive. If you look at all the major games and gaming technology that have broken out into massive mainstream phenomena in the last couple decades, it's mostly casual and social gaming. Nintendo Wii, Guitar Hero, Pokemon Go, stuff that encouraged getting up and hanging out with your mates, not the immersive solo experience. Minecraft might be considered an exception, but I'd say there's still a strong social aspect there. It is a co-op game, popular with streamers. It's also very simple to play, at least on the entry level, and totally unrealistic, so you couldn't call it immersive. I think most people are perfectly happy with gaming as a thing they don't have to devote 100% of their senses to. Hell, I'm a VR evangelist, and I don't want it to be the only way I play games. Sometimes I want to have something running on the other monitor, or I might want to alt-tab out to write up a few notes, or check my phone, or grab another handful of chips. Isn't there something a little disquieting about completely cutting off your awareness of the outside world? I remember the first time I lost track of time playing VR, finally taking off the headset after several hours and discovering the sun had gone down and I'd been playing in pitch darkness. It just felt weird, like anyone could have walked up and stabbed me at any moment. You want to know what I think does have potential to be huge? AR. If I could have the same oversized sunglasses discussed above, but they're just normal sunglasses except for a square in the corner of my vision with a little web browser, so I can display a walking route to the nearest pub, or watch YouTube videos, or read a book, or run a little GBA emulator so I can play Aria of Sorrow, maybe with a special single-hand button controller concealed in my jacket pocket, I'd fucking love that. It'd stave off boredom on long journeys, you could use it to feed yourself chat-up lines while out prowling for tail. I remember dearly longing for something like that when my kids were really young and I was having to sit in the dark holding their hand at 2 a.m. for an hour to get them to go back to fucking sleep. I know Google Glasses was a thing that tried to happen, and Meta and Apple are dipping toes in this area, but the flaw in all of them so far is that for wearable tech to be viable, it can't be obvious that you're wearing wearable tech. That's what I want, anyway. It needs to pass as an ordinary pair of sunglasses, so I don't have to go around looking like a complete bellend, or indeed someone holding up a sign saying, "I have low situational awareness and too much disposable income. Please rob me."